Hello and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. I'm Natalie Wood and I have a couple special guests with me today. They are from Thailand and you may have seen them before, but usually you see the results of their work. Welcome to the show, Jonathan and Hannah. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
It's been a while
since
you've been here to have an interview with us. In fact, we've never interviewed you together on the show because last time you were here for an interview, you weren't married yet, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So where are you working now? Let's start off with that.
Well, we live in Thailand, in the central valley of Thailand, actually. Nakhon Sawan is the name of the city, and it's about 3.5 hours north of Bangkok.
Okay. So what do you do?
We are the foreign correspondents for Jesus for Asia. That's the official title. So basically, we are the ones that go to film different projects by workers in India. We capture stories, and then we come home to Thailand and we edit them, and then they go on this show right here.
So you spend a lot of time traveling?
Well, yes. Yeah.
So when you're gone from home, is it primarily for shooting or what else do you do?
Well, there's definitely a mix. So when new missionaries come specifically to Thailand, we help them get used to Thailand, get settled, figure out how to live, in a completely new country. So that's part of what we do. We also, there are times that missionaries need help, they need support. Maybe it's just taking care of someone's kids or helping them, get where they need to go or different things like that. We just try and be a help where we can.
Okay.
So that's part of it too.
So how did you end up in Nakhon Sawan, in the city where you're living now?
Kind of a long story. You guys are a big part of that because I know John especially had been asking people to pray for Nakhon Sawan for years, I think it was already. Jonathan had been there at least once before the film. I'd been there a couple times just to see it. And when people were being asked to pray one time, and we were also at that point planning to go to film again about the need in that city, we hadn't been traveling that much because of COVID, and I think that's part of why we thought, I think it was the Holy Spirit too, but, maybe we could live there. We don't have to be living in Chiang Mai, which is where we were, and there's a lot more Christians, there's a lot more missionaries, a lot of missionaries in the Chiang Mai area. And so we're like, we have to live somewhere in Thailand, and it could be there. Even if we're not home all the time, we could be praying and getting to know people.
Okay. So you've had a few miracles and interesting interactions since you've been there. Can you share one with us?
Yeah, I think one of the more personal ones for me, I guess, was just we exercise in the park in the middle of the city several evenings a week when we're home, and it's not the most convenient. It'd be more convenient to just go from home. It would take less time, but our point in that is we want to get out there where the people are, because otherwise we're at home editing and we don't really interact with people. So we were in the park exercising one evening, and I was just walking actually, but I walk faster than some, so this lady starts jogging to keep up with me and was just obviously friendly, and she said hi, and I said hi back, and as soon as she realized I could speak a little bit of Thai just from the words I said, she started asking me questions, and we got to talk about all sorts of things, and she introduced us to a friend of hers who's Christian. She's Buddhist, but before I even told her, we're Christians too, she just wanted to introduce us to her friend and then invite us to her home that evening, which a lot of Thai people aren't just like, come to my house right away. They kind of want to get to know you, but I don't know if she felt comfortable with us, invited us in. We chatted about stuff, and there was stuff that came up in our conversation that evening that I didn't intend to be making a statement about anything about what we believe or anything, but she just picked up the difference between how they do things and how we do things, and she was impressed with it. She liked it, and I think it was a simple thing, but God is using it and continuing to.
So you've kept in contact even though you haven't been home very much?
Yeah, we actually haven't seen her a whole lot in the last year, but we got together with her again recently, and she's full of questions, and because of that, we get to talk about things that most people don't, we don't usually get to talk about. And there's other stuff. She just asked me straight up, do you guys fight and quarrel at home? And I was like, not really. And, she's like, Thai people do. And I'm like, well, okay, Americans do too. It's not because you're Thai. But I just shared with her,
Yeah.
it's because God helps us. It's because of, His working in our hearts. That's what makes our home a peaceful home. And so she was just trying to understand that more. Like, what do you mean by praying and asking God for help? And you could just tell she was thinking about it. And yeah, we don't know, what she's thinking, continuing to think, but she asked questions, and it's exciting
It's
to
a
see.
neat opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're filming and editing all of that part of your work that you're doing, how much more time do you spend? Is it about equal, traveling and filming versus editing? Which one takes more time?
Usually the editing takes more time.
It gets more interrupted too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier to, step away from it and do other things. But like, for instance, when we go to India, last year we went to India for about 4 weeks. And, some of the places we shot or the stories we captured, we only did it in like 3 or 4 hours, sometimes even less. But that, takes a lot longer to edit, and it becomes, 3-minute videos or 4-minute videos. So we captured it in a very short amount of time, just because we were trying to get many stories as we could. But then, the editing definitely takes more time.
Because it's not just, like whatever interview you're doing or whoever's story you're hearing. It's also, what does it look like where they are? What does their family look like? All that behind the scenes, kind of what we call in the video world B-roll.
Right.
All that you have to weave into there so the story is more complete.
Yeah,
The segment videos.
Yeah, and like in India, the interviews, we don't understand their language, so it's translated. But then the translator often has an accent that's difficult for some people to understand. So then there's subtitles, but figuring out how to make all of that mesh together, it takes some work. But that's okay.
Time consuming. So do you find this inspiring, the video work that you do?
Yes, and I think the reason is because we get to see firsthand the people that God is changing, whether it be the missionaries themselves or the Bible workers and the people that they're reaching. Being able to hear the stories, but not just hear them, actually be there and experience them and meet the people. It's really, really inspiring.
So how did you get into video, Jonathan?
I started with photography, actually, when I was 10 when I got my first camera. But I really got into it in my mid-teens. And then my older brother actually was getting into video, and that sort of, interested me.
Drew you in.
Yeah. And then, it just kind of grew from there. And, it's not like I went to school. I don't have some big degree in filming, but I learned on the job, and I like that better. Like, it sticks better.
Yeah, definitely. So then, Hannah, how did you become interested? Because it's not just Jonathan doing this work. You're doing it together, side by side together. So how did you get interested in doing video work?
Yeah, it's similar in some ways in that I had my grandpa on my dad's side he has done video stuff quite a bit. And then as I was growing up, my family was involved with some video stuff, more like, at a camp meeting or something. My dad kind of let out in some of that. And I was always drawn to that. And when I was in my earlier teens to mid-teens, I was like, I'm going to go to college and, get a degree in media of some sort. And then my family got invited to Thailand, and I kind of put that aside and didn't really think much of it anymore. Got involved in teaching. I was teaching for the good part of 6 years. And it wasn't until I realized that maybe we would actually get together someday, because there had been a casual interest for a while before we got together. But I was like, wow, that's like what I dreamed of doing, for most of my growing up years. And maybe I could actually get to do that. I didn't even imagine that I would. But it was just God's hand that I first got the passion for missions and then got to go back into the video. And then, Jonathan's been very patient with me because I've had a lot of catching up to do. I still do, but I've enjoyed it.
But that's okay, right? Because the work is going forward, and God's enabling you to do the work that He's given you to do. So, okay, so you have to share a little of the story of how the two of you got together, right? It's only fair, right?
Well, we'd met at summer camp, when we were like 15. But it was like I knew who she was, she knew who I was. We didn't really interact a lot.
We were both kind of quiet and shy.
Yeah. And then we were both counselors at the same camp 2 years later. And that was when, for me, I was like, I'm going to keep an eye on this girl.
He also figured out he figured out right away that I kind of shared that mutual interest.
Yeah. So I waited, for a long time. And then after I moved to Thailand and had, became the foreign correspondent for Jesus for Asia, I realized, you know what, I think it's time I need to start praying about this. So I prayed for quite a while, and then we started our relationship in early 2017. And then a day less than a year later, we got engaged and then got married in 2018.
Yeah.
Wow. There's people that go to the foreign field as a single person, and it's like, where would you ever meet, or how would you ever get together with someone? But God brought you two together with a shared passion for reaching the lost, as well as a shared interest in video and the skills and talents to go that direction and to use it in his work. And that's really neat to see, and I think so many times it's like we don't use our skills and talents for God, or we put them on the back burner and we think we'll never use them for God. But then he brings us back around and we can. So do you see a need for more people that do kind of what you do over there as far as the video?
Yeah.
Could you use some help?
So, let's just take India, for instance. Jesus for Asia sponsors so many Bible workers in India, and most of them we haven't even gone to visit with a video camera. So there's untold stories that are there. And this is, when a missionary goes from America to Asia or anywhere, they already have their friends, their family, their connections here in this country. But the Bible workers, they don't have that. They have no connection. They have no network of people here that know them and believe what they're doing and want to support them. Some of the Bible workers, they're the only Christian in their family, or, their immediate family, that's the only Christians. So they don't have that sort of support. So for us to go in and be able to interview them and get their story and see how God is using them, that's a really important part.
Yeah.
And, I've told people many times, we could go to India and do absolutely nothing but film for a year or 2 or 3. But then editing?
Yeah. That has to happen also.
Yeah, shooting is no good without the editing. Right. It's pointless. So yeah, there's absolutely space for more videographers in God's work. But I think the foundational qualification, shall we say, is just believing in the mission and surrendering to God. Like, we're videographers. We're not amazing videographers. Our work isn't just amazing like some other people. Like I know people, it's like, oh, they're way more talented than me. They have way better experience and whatnot. But the reason we're here doing what we're doing is because we believe in the mission and God is using us.
Yeah, and God blesses. Yeah.
Yeah, God, makes up the difference.
Right. Right. Well, we feel the same with shooting the show. Even it's like many times we're tired and it's like we struggle to get the words out and to tell the story in a way that makes sense even sometimes. And we get done and we're like, God's really going to have to work on this show, and then people call us and it's such a blessing because our viewers are like, I was blessed by that story that you shared and we felt like we stumbled all over the story, but they understood the story. And it's like, that's only because of the grace of God.
Yeah.
And so it's a blessing to be able to be in his work and doing what's really important in this world for the sake of the lost, and yet still feel small and know that it's only because of him that anything good comes out of it.
Yeah, imagine if we were trying to do this in our own strength.
Oh,
we would have given up a long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah. But God is the one, it's his work. He's the one that empowers. It's all him.
Yeah. So if someone's interested in video and in working for God like you are, where would you suggest that they start?
Well, if someone doesn't already have experience with video, the first step is to practice.
To learn how.
Practice is the most basic thing you can do, even if you just have a phone. You know, learn how to tell a story. Learn the framework and the different ways of how to tell a compelling story. Because if you can tell a story, even if you don't know how to film that good, the story, you know, is what gives the impact.
Right.
But of course, practice the technical side. You know, get to know photography, videography, and how to use a camera to tell the story. But you know, those are all sort of side things to get connected with God and stay connected, because He's the one that is our leader. You know, getting a job in the film industry, you can make a lot of money. You can live a horrible life, working all the time. I mean, some people would think that wasn't a horrible life, but from my perspective, I wouldn't want to do that. But working for God, making videos for God's work, for His glory, the reward isn't here. The reward is in heaven. And that's what's going to last forever. It's not here.
Yeah.
You know, I can make all the money I want, and then I'm going to die, and what's going to happen to the money? What good did it do me?
Right.
It's the perspective of this is the big picture. It's God's work. Let's invest in what matters.
Yeah. Invest in what matters. That really, we were told a story recently. Someone had met some very wealthy people, and they were older and looking toward, you know, not having a future very soon. And they actually told him that it would be easier to just die and let the government deal with the money in probate courts, whatever, than to have to figure out who to give it away to, or then to give it away. It's like it's easier to die holding on to it than to give it away. And it's just, that's really heartbreaking, because we need to hold to God.
Yeah.
You know, do what's important. Let go before it's too late.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you bringing that point out. Now, on the little bit on the lighter side, you guys have a YouTube channel, right?
Yes, we do.
So what is the point of your YouTube channel?
So we started the channel like the same year we got married. And our thinking, the original goal was we make videos for this show, right? For Jesus for Asia Now and other, parts of Jesus for Asia. But we wanted to really have a YouTube channel that would focus more on young people, encouraging them to consider missions as a career option, or at least student missions. Get the experience, be in the mission field, serve God somehow, some way. And I don't, again, with media, it's really hard to know what the seeds that you're planting are actually doing. I often thought, if we can get one person as a result of our YouTube channel to go as a missionary, like, it would be worth it. And we've put hundreds of hours into that YouTube channel. And just sort of to tell you what it's about, basically, a lot of it is just our life. So what is it like for us living in the mission field? What are we learning in the mission field? How, what do you need to be aware of when you go to the mission field? Things like that. Challenges
you might encounter.
Yeah. And we've shared some of those.
Vehicles that don't start and you get stuck somewhere and, you're going somewhere and suddenly it's pouring down rain and you're on a motorbike and,
Yeah. Yeah. All sorts of things that happen in the mission field. So the amazing thing is, we were really, really consistent with putting out a video every week for like 2 or 3 years, I think. And we've dropped off from that because we've gotten really busy since COVID, sort of, the restrictions went away. But there's actually a family in Thailand now that's not because of Mission Viewfinder, that's the name of the channel, but it was a significant impact on them. And they're actually planning to come and work with us in Nakhon Sawan, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that was my next question. It was like, are you going to get help for the other part of the work that you're doing in Thailand?
Yeah.
Because it's not just the video work that you're doing. You're also, like we've talked before, trying to slowly reach out to the people of Nakhon Sawan.
Yeah. So this family is a precious family, and they're right now learning Thai.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure when, hopefully next year, they'll come and join us in Nakhon Sawan. And, we never thought we're the ones to reach Nakhon Sawan. God is the one to reach Nakhon Sawan.
Right.
And we're just thankful that God is bringing in, the pieces that are needed there to reach the hearts of the people there.
Right. So did you go to Nakhon Sawan with the idea that you're going to do some sort of particular ministry work there, or like you're going to try to, do an English language school or church plant, or did you go with that idea, or what idea did you go with when you went to
Does it sound like we have time to? Oh, sorry.
Well, time, right?
Yeah. So, we went there with the thought we want there to be a church plant here. We want there to be a group of believers that are, following God, believe the three angels' messages. But our approach has been, we're there to live there so that God can work through us, and we're there so that we can pray for people and pray for the city. And we do that regularly. I would love it if we could spend, 4 times as much time praying as we do. But we haven't gotten there yet. But really...
Well, you have to kind of be home to pray in that city.
Yeah.
Also, you can pray for it from a distance, like we do from here.
Right.
But it is nice when you can walk there and pray there. I remember that Zoom call that you talked about where you guys were actually walking through the park as we were all joined on Zoom, and we were all praying for the people that we saw, and for, it's just really... It's really important to think about what their lives are like and to see them doing, some of these prayer walks, we've seen people, doing their laundry out on the side of the road, or worshiping the monk when he's there, and different things like that. It's so important, and it makes it so much more real. It's not just some city in Thailand where you guys live. It's this person that we've seen, this person jogging, this person riding their bicycle, it makes it a lot more real.
Yeah, and when we go into exercise in the city, we usually go like 4 times a week in the evening. And when I first started out, I was just praying, for people as I pass them. And sometimes I get distracted, but I try and stay focused on that. And then it started to get old, and I realized, what? This needs a refresher or something. And I read something in the Spirit of Prophecy that said that it impressed in my mind so strongly that when I'm in the park praying for people, it's not just me praying for people. It's me praying for people and angels going to help those people to answer my prayers. And so I pray for that. Lord, that person, they look discouraged. I don't know what's going on in their life, but I pray that you will be the answer to their heart's cry, and that you will help them in their greatest difficulty in a way that they will recognize it's you. It's not chance. It's not happenstance. It's something did this. And another experience I want to share, because it's really amazing. We were reading a book. Hannah was reading a book, actually. I'm reading it now, about prayer walking and how, they suggested walking on the streets and praying together out loud. And we hadn't done that before. So we're like, okay, let's try this. So one Sabbath morning, we went to a part of the city that has all the government buildings, or a lot of them. So because the city is the capital of the province. So it's not just the city buildings, it's the provincial buildings, like the governor lives there, immigration is there, the city hall, like a lot of government buildings. So we went there and we walked this, it was 5 kilometers, I think, loop around this area of the city. And we just prayed out loud for the people. We prayed for the people that work in the building. We prayed over this. And we got back to where we parked. And I had this distinct feeling of satisfaction and just fulfillment, like I hadn't felt in quite a while. And as I was thinking about that, why am I, what is it that's making me feel this way? I realized it's because Satan's kingdom is beginning to crumble. Like what we just did, even though we just walked around and said some words, right? But it's much more than that.
Just words.
Because there's a whole thing in the Great Controversy, and I don't know what that looked like behind the scenes of what we don't see, but stuff was happening. And stuff is happening as a result of that. Yeah. So keeping in mind that the big picture of what we don't see, it's maybe we're just imagining what it might exactly look like, but stuff is happening behind the scenes that we don't get to see. So we're in this stage of reaching Nakhon Sawan where most of what we're doing, we don't see results. We don't see stuff. But God is doing stuff. We know that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, Satan didn't want us to do that, because that morning, for no really apparent reason, right before we went into town, I started to just not feel good. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It was fairly warm weather already. And I say warm, I mean hot. And so I was just like, I don't know, but I just felt impressed, we need to go anyway. So I don't know that I even said anything. We just went. And even as we were having prayer by the river before we started walking, I was just leaning on the railing. I was just I don't know, I don't feel good, but I don't know any good reason for this. This isn't normal. And by the time we got back, I was fine. And that isn't the first time that something like that has happened to us, where one or both of us just starts not feeling good. And then by the time we're done with what we needed to do, we feel fine. It's that wasn't just an ordinary sickness. That was the devil trying to keep it from happening.
Yeah. That's happened before we go on a trip, in the middle of a trip, before we're going to shoot a story. Satan doesn't like what we're doing, and that's a good feeling.
Now, you mentioned that you did this on a Sabbath morning. Why didn't you go to church that day, to the nice Adventist church in your city?
Well, there isn't one. That's why we moved there.
Right.
There's no church there. The closest church to us is about an hour away, and it's a English church.
There's no
with
Thai
Filipinos.
people.
There's no Thai people there. And our burden is to reach the Thais. So we want to see a church group in Nakhon Sawan that's worshiping in Thai, with Thai people there, learning about God, learning to follow God.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you both for being here and sharing your stories with us. And we'll look forward to seeing you on camera at different times. But we also look forward to the stories that you get to bring back to us to share with our viewers.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for joining us today. And if you would like to be involved in the ministry that Jonathan and Hannah are doing, or any of the ministries that we have talked about on the show today, please contact us at Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee, 37315. Call us at 423-413-7321, or visit our website at jesusforasia.org. May God richly bless you until we see you next time on Jesus for Asia Now.